Tell him the guy never went in the house. Exactly. I hit him. Jen! Could I have hit him? I hit him. Could I have hit him? We had an argument. I don't remember going to the house. These are some of the things that Jen McCabe testified to on Friday at the Karen Reed trial, day 14, which was a full day of testimony. And her husband, Matt McCabe, testified, where it was brought out that there was a text message group chat. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Hello, my lovely peaches. How are you? Welcome and welcome back. So it is Sunday, May 18th. Let's see if I want to put a little light on or not. Sunday, May 18th, 2024, and the Karen Reed trial, day 14, finished Friday, and that's too freaking bright. Let's see if I can get a little bit of light. So I want to make this a really quick update, but we'll see. Once I get on a roll, I might start yapping. But this, I already talked about this yesterday. This is not sponsored. And I like that it looks like Wally, or if you're Gen X, you might remember, what was his name? Circuit number five from that movie with, what's that guy's name from Cocoon? Steve Guttenberg and Ali Sheedy did that movie. Anyways, okay, so he's just super cute, and I just like the light, and isn't it adorable? Okay, so Karen Reed trial, day 14 was Friday. Judge Beverly Cannoni did say on Friday that she's going to look into the possibility of not continuing with the short days. So right now, they have full trial days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesdays, Thursdays, they're doing half days ending at lunchtime. And she said she might look into if there's a way that they can maybe not have the half days. But, I have a feeling that the jurors are going to be like, abso-fucking-lutely not. I need to be able to get to do some shit during the week. I need my Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, so I know that the videos where you get screenshots, screen grabs, screen records, and you pop up little clips to show and correspond with what you're saying. I love those kind of videos. They're so fabulous, but it's also very time consuming to search and find the exact clip and then to line it up. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'm really trying to just do like a faster update. So I really appreciate you if you're here, if you like my updates and my perspective. I really appreciate you being here. And again, just a reminder, I have noticed that 50% of my viewers have not hit subscribe. And I'm so close to being able to be monetized so I can actually start to gain some revenue from all of my hard work. And even though it might only be pennies that I have to pay 35% of to YouTube, it would be nice to start to get a few pennies. Maybe I can actually start to get some sponsored stuff, like so far the things that I actually promote. Like if you saw my other video where I was talking about the massage tools, again, I realized I did like 2 little ads in a video. I don't get a single penny. I'm just talking about things that I personally love. And I'm obsessed with self-massage. This is not the bag that it came in. This was a shoe bag that came with the bag I got. And I brought these tools with me. I don't know if you've seen my video where I mentioned that my sister was in the hospital. She's better. She's out. She's on the mend. But so she was having some tummy issues, I'll just say. So I brought some of my massage tools to the hospital to see if I could relieve some of her pain. Whoa, don't knock over Christopher, number 5. I think I could call him Wally. Anyway, so if you had seen the video where I was taking out the recycling in the box for the Vivacious tool set, which is what these are. Again, not at all sponsored, but I have healed and managed my pain and ailments by self-massaging for years. And wood therapy is what these are, is really, really, really amazing, and I highly recommend it. And there's so many things that you can do. I'm just keep doing it on my neck because this is the limit of what you can see. Anyway, yes, I am going to talk about Karen Reed. I just happened to have these right here. And since I had showed the box, and again, like I said, this is not sponsored. I actually genuinely love these. I love the quality so much. I bought a second set. I bought like a 5 or 6 piece set the first time, and then I bought a 12 piece set, which is almost exclusively different pieces, except for, no, well, I got, this was, I think this was in twice. And then, actually this, they did kind of fuck it up, I will say, because this was advertised. So I have 2 of these exact ones. These are wooden discs that can spin in either direction. And this particular set that I bought was supposed to have one of these that was bent in the middle. And they sent me the straight one, which I already have. So I was kind of bummed because I really was looking forward to the bent one. But other than that complaint, they are amazing. Okay. Water break, hydrate, always stay hydrated. All right, and for any of you who haven't clicked away already, let's get into this Karen Reed update for day 14. And there's a plane going by.
Shocked. Just face was drawn.
And where did you go from there?
When I left Fairview, I went back to my house on Jen and I.
Your memory.
I'm not saying I don't remember what I told Michael Proctor.
Well,
I'm stating what I remember.
Hold on a second, sir. You just told this jury that you don't remember. May I approach?
Yes.
You had said that you don't remember what you told Michael Proctor. Did that report refresh your memory?
I'm not saying I don't remember what I told Michael Proctor.
Well,
I'm stating what I remember.
Hold on a second, sir. You just told this jury that you don't remember what you told Michael Proctor. Those were your words.
Yes, at the point I'm reading, I don't remember the exact wording, but I know what I told Michael Proctor.
All right. And you told Michael Proctor that you observed a big dark SUV parked to the right of the house. Did you not?
At some point in the conversation, yes, I told Michael Proctor that a big dark SUV moved to the right of the house.
Moved to the right of the house? Is that what you just said?
All right, let me rephrase. At some point, there was a big dark SUV parked in front of the right of the house. I physically didn't see it move, so I need to rephrase. I can't say move.
Right, but what I'm concentrating on now, sir, is not what your memory.
Just popping in, I had actually said that it was Sunday, May 18th, but it was Saturday, May 18th, but now it's Sunday, May 19th, and I actually popped in to screen record one more portion of Matt McCabe where he actually talks about where he saw the SUV, and Yannetti's like, yeah, this is funny. Am I funny to you? But even more importantly to me is that the point when Yannetti says, you know, you're smiling, is this funny to you? And he's like, you keep asking me the same question. And then he's like, because I'm trying to get an answer that you won't give me. And Matt McCabe makes a facial expression that is exactly what I thought. Like, what? You're trying to get an answer out of me that I won't give. Exactly. Because you're trying to squeeze me to say something that isn't true.
I suggested to you that that was the first time, according to what you told Michael Proctor. Would you dispute that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Is your memory exhausted as to whether or not that was the first or second time, according to what you told Michael Proctor?
My memory is not exhausted.
Okay, so if your memory is not exhausted, do you deny telling Michael Proctor that you observed a big dark SUV parked to the right of the house?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
I don't know if I can answer it. I believe it's the second question.
All right.
I told him I saw an SUV and parked in front of the house. Then I saw an SUV move further up the road, which, looking out of the house, would be to the right of the house. So that would be when I saw the SUV to the right of the house, would be the second time I saw the SUV. I've always stated the SUV was in front of the house if looking out the front door.
Okay, so when you talked, so you deny telling Michael Proctor that when you first saw the SUV, by the way, sir, is this funny? I'm sorry.
This is not funny, sir. Not at all. It's been 2 years of misery.
Okay. You're smiling now, that's why I asked.
You keep repeating the same question.
Well, I'm trying to get an answer that you won't give me, sir. When you talked to Michael Proctor on January 29th of 2022, when you first observed the big dark SUV, you said to him it was parked to the right of the house.
Objection.
This is the last time on that question. Is that right?
That is not right. The SUV, the first time was in front of the house, coming out the front door. The second time it was to the right of the house.
All right.
You have to move on. Mr.
Gotcha.
Nick.
Okay. All right. So
So I fast forward through some of the testimony, but I'm leaving it because I think it's interesting to just see how long they testified and were
the
questioned.
home approximately 1:40 a.m. or so,
Yeah, give or take 140, 145. I don't know the exact time.
and you walked out with your wife, Jennifer McCabe.
Good. The fuck examination.
Did he not?
Yes, he did.
And then at that point, you knew Brian Albert was the oldest brother of the Albert family, correct? So the guy never went in the house. You would agree with me that he responded with one word, correct?
Yes, he did.
And in response to you saying the guy never went in the house, Brian Albert's response was, exactly, correct?
Yes, that's his response.
All right, we're done here.
We're done here.
All right. Commonwealth, any redirect?
What was going on at the house throughout the course of the evening that you were there?
I sat at the table and I just spoke to Brian.
Well, they're at the waterfall.
Ms. Roberts is making that drive from Meadows, where you first saw. And am I correct that it starts in sort of a ascending order as far as the most?
I mean, you told her that it did.
I think it starts in reverse order from page 4, timing-wise, up through page 1. What was going on at the house throughout the course of the evening that you were there?
I sat at the table and I just spoke to Brian.
Well, they're at the waterfall.
I waited a few minutes. Aaron was screaming, look, look, and then Kerry was screaming back.
And obviously, Ms. Roberts on the other end.
Yes.
So the conversation that you were talking about as far as Ms. Roberts saying, shut up, and we're going to Meadows Ave and all of that, you could hear Ms. Roberts saying that?
Yes.
Now,
Kerry's, yelling at her, telling her she's crazy and that she was driving around drunk and she could have hit anything, and kind of rushes us to go into the house to look in there for John.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask if I could publish on the screen what's been marked as exhibit number 2. Okay, we didn't like. Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could.
Police officers asked me to go into the house and to wake up my sister.
And
And she said, Google kids. Karen was sitting in there. I kind of scooched myself in. Miss Roberts came over. Karen grabbed our hands. She asked us to pray. She looked at her hands and she had blood. She asked us if she could have gotten her period. We told her no, that was John's blood. Then she said, what if he's dead? Promise me you'll take care of the kids. Someone's going to take care of the kids. Then we prayed. Yes.
So during this time, the defendant's yelling and you're on the phone with 911, correct?
Yes.
So you're trying to.
I don't know why we played through that whole video.
If I could just take you back to.
And if they came from a different way, I don't know how the cars are all parked the same direction, but.
Communicated Ms. Reed goes over to Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Roberts. What is it that you were doing at that time?
I got out of the car and I came around, and for a second or two, I completely just froze. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then Carrie and I made eye contact, and I called 911. And Carrie was asking me to go.
Let's go and you can take that. The vehicle when with your husband, I presume?
Yes,
And where did the two of you go?
we went home.
And your children were still there without either you or your husband there, is that correct?
Yes.
And once you arrived back home, what is it that you did at that point?
We went in the house, and Officer Proctor was coming over to speak with us.
And that Officer Proctor, is that someone that you knew previously or had ever met before?
I had never met Officer Proctor.
And did he come alone or was he with someone else?
He had another officer with him.
You know who that officer is?
Yes, Yuri Buchanan.
And had you ever met Yuri Buchanan?
Trooper
No.
B.
When you get home, about how long was
When
it
did your brother-in-law
time
get to your
from when
house?
You arrived home with your husband to the time that the officers from the state police came by?
It was pretty quick.
Now, in addition to the officers from the state police, did anybody else come over to your house? Bedroom? Could you hear anything that they were saying downstairs in the dining?
No.
Yes.
Chat, for all of you that are like, I'm confused.
Well, I went ahead and I did screenshot probably 20 or so minutes of, or I should say screen record some of both of their testimony. At first I was using Emily's video, but she was kind of like screaming and stuff too much over it. So I just wanted to be able to record it. And so I think I may have misremembered a few things in my discussion of my thoughts, but ultimately everything that I said after this, I still feel, and I'm just adding some of those clips, and some of it I put on 1.5 speed, some of it I put on 1.75 speed. I don't know if you can slow it down, if it will sound normal or not, but I just wanted to capture some of it. There were many hours of testimony, and so instead of trying to like have myself listening to it on screen. I just wanted to play it so that I could capture some of the important testimony that came out on day 14, which was Friday.
Court is back in session. Please be seated.
Stianetti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McCabe, when we broke, I was just about to ask you about the last exchange here. You will agree with me that on February 1st of 2022 at 12:51 and 49 seconds, you texted the group chat to say, ask Chris to ask some questions, correct?
Yep, I'm reading it right now. Yes, that's correct.
And who was the Chris you were referring to?
That would be Chris Albert.
Brian's brother, correct?
That is correct.
And then you texted your wife, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert, quote, tell them the guy never went in the house, correct?
Yeah, that's part of the same text. Yes.
Mr. McCabe, who was the guy that you were referring to? Does he have a name?
That would,
Your wife, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert, quote, tell them the guy never went in the house, correct?
yeah, that's part of the same text. Yes.
Mr. McCabe, who was the guy that you were referring to? Does he have a name?
That would be John O'Keefe.
When you told the group to tell them the guy never went in the house, that was you talking about how you should all get your stories straight, correct?
No.
You would agree with me that your stories are all straight in terms of the guy never went in the house, correct?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
John never went in the house. It's not a story, it's a fact.
Well, when you said, tell them the guy never went in the house, Brian Albert was on that exchange still, was he not? He was still part of the group text?
Yes, Brian is on the exchange.
And Brian Albert was the one to respond, wasn't he?
Let me switch pages here. 51.
He responded, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And then at that point, you knew Brian Albert was the oldest brother of the Albert family, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The oldest sibling in that family, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And in his response to your instructions that his younger brother, Chris, should say that John O'Keefe never went in the house, or the guy never went in the house, you would agree with me that he responded with one word, correct?
Yes, he did.
And in response to you saying the guy never went in the house, Brian Albert's response was, exactly, correct?
Yes, that's his response.
All right, we're done here.
All right.
And John was someone you were friends with, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, did you ever tell anybody what to say at any point in time to the state police, to any investigator whatsoever?
No.
Did anyone in your family or in your presence ever tell anyone that in front of you?
No.
Now, you asked some questions about when you were looking out and you saw the SUV, correct?
Yes.
And your focus, as you indicated in your testimony, was on the SUV, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, during the time that you were looking out, did you ever see a pickup truck outside?
I knew the pickup truck was out there, but again, I didn't look at the pickup. I kind of saw it, but was focusing on the SUV.
And
I saw a vehicle out there. Let's say that.
my question is more so, as far as the tire marks that you were talking about in the road, was that before or after the pickup truck was in?
It was after.
Now, you were asked some questions about directionality and things of that nature as far as coming down Chapman or Cedar Crest, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Side though.
As far as any state SUV, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
You didn't see him, correct?
I did not see him.
Could you see anyone inside from where you were?
I could not see anybody in the vehicle.
Do you see anything about the windows as far as their tint or anything like that?
I don't recall the tint. I couldn't see inside, though.
As far as any statements that Ms. Nagel made on the way home, is it your testimony that Ms. Nagel didn't say those statements or that you didn't hear those statements?
I did not hear those statements.
Now, turning to February 1st,
Documents?
Thank you very much. Like, walk out?
Yes.
now, with respect, and
Going to allow that. I'd like to see counsel at sidebar for just.
sort of question with regard to Ms. Reed, is that a conversation that you had as far as her relationship with Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, similar.
Now, on that evening, if I could turn you back to the waterfall. You arrived about 9. About what time was it that you left?
Approximately midnight, a little give or take.
And so during the 3 hours or so that you were there, how would you describe sort of the mood or demeanor of the group that you were with during the time you were there?
Fine, friendly, normal, typical night, just out having a drink, listening to music.
And you mentioned about 11 o'clock or so it was that Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed came into the bar?
Correct.
And when they came to the bar, where did they go in relation to where you were?
They came right over and talked to the group that we were with.
And when Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant came over, what, if anything, did you observe the defendant do or have with her when she came?
Oh, she had brought a glass with her and kind of took it out of her coat and just kind of chuckled about it.
What, if anything, did you observe about the glass?
I believe it had ridges on it.
What, if anything, did you observe as far as what was in the glass?
It was clear.
Was there any other kind of like a straw or a lime or anything like that?
I don't remember.
As far as you knew, at some point did you become aware of where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed had been prior to coming over to the waterfall?
Yes.
And where were they?
CF McCarthy's,
Where is that in location to the waterfall?
just right up the street.
Now, over the course of the evening, you were at a bar. Fair to say you were drinking, is that right? Do
Yes.
you recall specifically what you were drinking?
I think beer.
Well, let me ask you this first. I'm sorry. So, with respect to the time that you were at the waterfall, did you speak with Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, briefly at the bar.
And do you recall just generally what it was that you talked about?
Yes, his niece had just gotten into Bishop Fee, so he was very excited.
Waterfall. What, if any, discussion was there amongst the group as far as going somewhere next or what to do after the waterfall?
Karen had asked Chris if we could go up to D&E. She wanted to go up to D&E and have him cook some food.
And was that something that was brought up by the defendant once, more than once, or something?
Many times.
And what was sort of the response from the group in regard to going to D&E and making food?
So Ryan, Chris, and Matt do this annual weight loss challenge every year, and it was in the midst of that. So they were like, no, we can't go up there. We're not going to eat. We'll do it another time.
Now, following that conversation, what, if any, other, let me ask you this, why did you go to the waterfall in the first place?
So I went to meet my sister, Nicole. She was heading there because she was going to go have a drink with her. Her son was going to have some friends and then meet out. So I was going to meet them for a drink for my nephew's birthday.
To be clear, that nephew was Brian Albert Jr., is that right?
Yes.
And did Brian Albert Jr. ever show up at the waterfall that evening?
He did not know.
Do you know why not?
Brian suffers from anxiety, and during that time period, he was really struggling.
So he decided to stay home?
He just decided to stay home, yes.
And so after the discussion about going over to D&E and then the communication of not going over, what, if any, other discussion was had as to where people were going or what was happening after leaving the waterfall?
Brian Albert, Sr., just made a general, hey, I'm going to go home, have a drink with Brian if anyone would like to come.
And was that something that was just to certain people, or was it expressed at the table, or how was that expressed?
It was expressed to everyone, like, hey, we're going to go back home, have a beer with Brian if anyone would like to come.
Now, after that was sort of put out to the table, what, if any, discussion did you have in regard to that with either Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, or both?
Both of them. I said, oh, you guys should come. Do you want to come?
And did they indicate that that was something that they wanted to do, or did they indicate that they were coming?
They both wanted to come, and they said they were coming, yes.
Now, when you left the waterfall, who, if anyone, left with you or left at the same time?
I believe I walked out with Karen. I know I walked out with Karen, and I believe Miss Kolakidis as well.
Prior to you leaving, your sister Nicole and her husband Brian, had they left prior to you leaving?
Yes.
And so you're walking out with the defendant and Ms. Kolakidis, is that right?
Yes.
And when you were walking out with them, what, if anything, was the sort of conversation or discussion as you were walking out the door?
Well, Matt and John were still inside. So at one point I said, oh, Karen, why don't you just come with me? Figuring, because, Matt can talk to anyone, and God knows how long he was going to stay in there. So I was just like, hey, do you want to drive with me? And they can meet us.
Your husband's a talker, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as the car that you had parked there before, where was that parked in relation to the waterfall?
I believe I had to kind of walk straight out.
In the parking lot?
In the parking lot, yes.
And after you had exited from the waterfall, at some point did you observe Mr. O'Keefe come out as well?
Yes, he did.
And did you have a conversation with him in the parking lot while you were out there?
I believe briefly, Karen, him, and I all spoke, yes.
Do you recall briefly what you spoke about?
Them coming back to Fairview.
And after sort of the two of you parted ways, did you observe where Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant went?
I just saw them they walked left, I walked straight.
And if one were to walk left in the direction they were walking, where would that bring them to?
Washington Street, the main street.
So you went over then to your car in the parking lot?
Yes.
And while you were in your car in the parking lot, well, let me ask you this first. When you walked out of the waterfall, what, if anything, was different about the weather from when you had walked?
It had started to snow.
And as far as the snow was concerned, what was that initial point when you walked out of the waterfall? Was it accumulating or anything like that?
Yes, I would say, it was starting to cover the car, so you'd have to put your windshield wipers on to clear it.
So you didn't have to get the scraper out or anything like that, just clip on the windshield?
Clip on the windshield wipers. I probably was lazy and just rolled the windows down to get it off the windows.
And so you're in the car for some period of time waiting for your husband, correct?
Yes.
And about how long is it that you're waiting for your husband before he comes out?
Actually, it wasn't long. I think I turned the car on and then I saw him walking and I pulled up.
And while you're waiting for your husband or shortly after he gets to the car, what if any communication did you receive at that point?
I received a text from John saying where to.
And with respect to that, did you respond in kind via text, or how did you respond, if at all, to Mr. O'Keefe?
I was driving, so I called him.
And when you called him, if you know, was that something that was done through Bluetooth with regard to the car, or
Yes, it would have been because it was my phone and I was driving, so I would have had it over the car.
so your phone would have been paired up with your phone?
Yes, I plugged it in when I got it. I always plug my phone in when I get in, if I'm driving.
And with your husband in the car, it's fair to say that he could hear both sides of the conversation as far as you and Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
And so that initial call that you placed to Mr. O'Keefe, is that done while you're driving?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you telling him as far as that initial call was concerned?
He had asked for he said where to. I gave him the address, and then I believe I just started giving him directions, and I actually think Matt spoke over me and was saying, go this way, and then I said, yeah, you just go down to Fairview, it's at the bottom.
And so as far as the directions, do you recall anything specifically about what you told Mr. O'Keefe as far as where the directions were?
Well, he actually called back a second time, and when he called back a second time, I instructed him that it was by a friend's house, one of his niece and my daughter's friend, and I said, oh, it's right, go past Bella's Street. It's at the bottom of the hill.
And before we get to that, just as far as that initial phone call, essentially Fairview Road, you're familiar with?
Yes.
And it's where your sister lives with her family, correct?
Yes.
And if I could just ask, with regard to your sister's husband, Brian, how long have you known him?
Since I was in kindergarten, very long time. In kindergarten, very long time.
So they had dated for some period of time before they got married.
So later on in the video, I'll be contemplating whether or not I'm going to watch Bridgerton or not. And then I started to watch it. And the recap, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. So I was like, let me watch the last episode of last season. And I watched a couple minutes of that. And I was like, let me go back a little more. So I went to the 6th episode of the 2nd season. And I just watched the last 3 episodes so I could catch up. Because I was like, I don't remember really anything. So I also started to watch part of the screen record that I grabbed from Matt and Jen McCabe's testimony, and I'm not sure if I emphasized it enough. Oops. What I want to emphasize enough is that I actually found them credible, and watching it again, there's still more. Like, there's hours of them testifying, and I only watched some. But I genuinely was getting credible vibes, and it seemed true to me. And it seemed to me like the defense was really stretching and reaching and trying to make something that wasn't really what they're trying to frame it as. Like, oh, you're getting people to decide what to say and make up lies. I feel like they were just confirming. I feel that they were credible. But like I said, we'll see on cross examination on Tuesday if I still feel that way. But maybe there was some things that were not exactly right. But I feel at this point that they're credible. And then also listening again, I actually didn't catch the part where Jen McCabe says that Karen told her, look at the taillight. I have to watch it again to catch that again. But maybe tomorrow I'll watch some more. I don't know. Like I said, Monday I have work to do. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the video.
About how long a drive is it?
Approximately 10 minutes. I mean, with the weather, the lights, the street lights, I would say about 10 minutes, give or take.
And as far as during the drive from Meadows Ave to Fairview, what's going on inside the car over the course of that ride?
Karen is in between us, like from the back, kind of pushing up in between Carrie and myself. And she's just screaming, Carrie, Carrie, her name over and over, my name over and over, and repeating certain phrases. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Carrie is yelling at her to shut up, to sit back, to buckle up, to look for John.
And while this is going on, what, if anything, are you and Ms. Roberts doing in the front seat of the car?
We're just, she's slowly driving, and I'm just peering out the window looking for John. I mean, it was a crazy situation. She's screaming, he didn't come home. Could he be walking home? Where is he? So we're just looking out the window, looking for John.
Now, during the time that this is going on and Ms. Reed is sort of screaming in between you, was that continuous, or what, if anything else, did you see her doing in the back seat while you were going from Meadows Ave to Fairview?
I didn't see her doing anything. She just continuously screamed that. And then as we got by different landmarks, she then started, screaming, asking if John could be at certain people's houses.
And whose houses was she asking if John could be at?
If she could be at Bella's house.
Referring to the directions that you had provided the night before?
Correct.
And so that would have been, Bella was a child who was around the age of Kaylee and your daughter, correct?
Yes.
And there have been some years in the past dating relationship between Mr. O'Keefe and Bella's mother, correct?
Yes.
And so Ms. Reed is saying that in the car that morning as you're driving over to Fairview?
Yes, she asked, could he have been with Ashley? And I looked at her and said no, because to me that was a crazy idea. And then Carrie had mentioned, do you think he could have called somebody else that lived on a street over? And she started screaming, who's that? Who's she?
And you recall who Carrie referred to?
Yes.
And who's it?
A woman that John had previously dated.
And was that anywhere recent in time to when you're driving around on January 29th? When they had dated?
No.
So similar to Bella's mother would have been years before?
Correct.
And so when Ms. Roberts said that, what, if anything, did the defendant say?
She was just spiraling, yelling about Ashley, who was Bella's mom, and just talking what I thought was very irrational about John maybe being with her.
So you're looking around outside of the vehicle as the vehicle is going down towards Fairview, is that correct?
Yes.
And you recall how it was that Ms. Roberts came about coming to Fairview similar to the night before? Did she come in from the Chapman side or from the Cedar Crest side?
Chapman.
And as the vehicle turns from Chapman onto Fairview, what, if any, conversation was going on at that point?
Well, Bella lives on that street, so that was when that conversation was being had. Also, just a continuation. It was just like continuous screaming of our names, Carrie screaming at her to sit back, and then sometimes she would sit back and almost like be quiet for a minute, and then it would start all over again.
Now, as you were coming down Fairview Road, what, if anything, were you saying to Ms. Roberts, did Ms. Roberts know where she was going as far as where your sister lived?
No, I told her that my sister lived at the bottom, and then as we got closer, I said, just past, see where those trees are, just past the trees is my sister's house.
And as you got in that area, sort of the trees, from the residence of your sister at 34 Fairview Road, trees that you're talking about, where are they in relation to the property?
They're at the start of the property is the trees, and then their property begins.
And so the flagpole area and fire hydrant that you were talking about in earlier exhibits, is that in the same area as the trees?
Yes, it goes the trees, and then the fire hydrant, then further up is the fire hydrant and the flagpole.
As you're coming down Fairview now, approaching 34 Fairview, the house would be on which side of the vehicle, on the driver's side or the passenger side?
The driver's side.
And as you approach that area where the trees and the flagpole and the fire hydrant were, what, if anything, happens then?
We drive past the flagpole area, and all of a sudden, Karen starts screaming, there he is, and she's banging to get out.
And banging on the door in the backseat?
Yes.
And at the time that she's saying this,
Screaming, there he is, and she's banging to get out.
and banging on the door in the backseat,
Yes.
and at the time that she's saying this, were you able to see anything outside of the vehicle?
I saw nothing.
And what, if anything, when she's banging and kicking or banging on the door, what did Ms. Roberts do?
Miss Roberts unlocked the door, Karen got out, Miss Roberts looked at me and said something like, she's crazy or she's batshit crazy, something like that.
And when the defendant gets out of the vehicle, where is it that she goes?
She just runs
And runs with?
straight to John.
And again, when she's running, at this point in time, can you see what she's running toward or where she's going or anything that she's talking about seeing?
I was on the passenger side, so as I got out, she was already at John.
So she gets out and essentially makes a beeline over to where John was,
Correct.
and you're getting out of the passenger side, and by the time you come around the car, she's already there.
Yes.
And when she gets over there, what if anything could you see at that point?
She straddles John and she lifts up his shirt, and then she lifted up her shirt and went to lay on him. And Miss Roberts went over and she was removing the snow from his face.
Let me take a step back from that just for a moment. And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask to publish just a portion of what's been marked as Exhibit 12.
Okay.
Now, Mr. McCabe, I'm going to direct your attention up to the screen and what's been marked as Exhibit 12. I know this is not something that pertains to your vehicle or anything else. But what I'm going to ask you as it plays through is if what you observe in this video is consistent with what you observed during the drive to Fairview Road that way. It's going to be a quick way. Where are the landmarks you observed in the video?
Yes, that is Cassie. We just passed Cassie's Corner Store, and that is Chapman Street.
It's going to be good. Again, Mr. McCabe, do you recognize whereabouts in the town of Canton we are in this portion of the video?
Yes.
Where?
This is the top of Fairview.
So this will be from Chapman coming on to Fairview, is that correct?
Correct.
And prior to that, along that ride along Chapman, is that the period of time you're Hill?
The top.
I'm just going to give you a play this version.
The car, and I came around.
Okay, do you recognize any of the individuals up on that screen? Fast forward just about a minute.
Does he have drug problems? Does he drug? Does he drug? Huh?
If you could, fast forward just about a minute. Right. Right. And then your pause. Okay, do you recognize any of the individuals up on that screen?
Yes.
And if you could, with the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention. Who you recognize and who you recognize next?
Carrie Roberts, myself, Karen Reed.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you can take that.
Tact, and yes.
Did she direct you sort of where to go within the vehicle to find the blankets or the towels, whatever it was?
Yes.
Now, you called 911, you spoke to the operator and told them essentially where you were, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as that initial, what you saw, that you froze and couldn't believe what you saw, can you describe to the jury what it was that you saw?
I saw Carrie wiping the snow off of John's face, and I could not believe that that was John laying there.
And how was John positioned, or how was his body positioned when you saw him?
He was just laying flat on his back.
And as far as the snow Ms. Roberts was wiping off his face, was there any other snow on his body at that time?
Yes.
And if you know about how much?
There was enough that his body was covered in snow.
I wonder, are you like me? Do you have 3 drinks at any given time? I've got a water. I've got a lemon seltzer with some sugar cubes that I'm drinking out of this lemon mug with a strawberry glass straw. Even though this mug gives me trypophobia vibes, I still love it. That drink. And then I have my cold coffee drink that I have like at all times. I have to stop drinking it past midnight. Anyway, do you also always have 3 drinks? So I have notes that I want to mention so I can actually get to the point of the video. All right, I can throw in a third non-sponsored product. Mr. Bonner's vegan lip balm. So let's just get my lips ready. Okay, so my notes. Matt and Jen McCabe, who are married, who were two people, a couple, at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. And at the house, they testified, and there was a few things that came out. So day 14 was the first day of testimony that perked me up finally to be like, okay, did she actually hit him? But still questions about, okay, if she actually hit him, was it malicious though? That's, was it meant to harm him? Was it intentional? But let me get into the few things that happened Friday. So I will just clarify that Friday I was mostly working, and I had it on some of the day, and then I had paused it a bunch, and then I kind of like listened to it later on the replay, and I listened to Emily D. Baker, and I listened to Peter Tragos' opinion about it, and I saw a lot of comments on Emily's page, and where was I also watching? Was I watching with Jay and Bob? I think I watched a tiny bit, but then I switched to Emily. Another plane. So there was a lot of comments of people saying they're not credible, meaning Matt and Jen McCabe. They're lying. I want to interrupt myself because this had turned off for a second, which it does. If it's not in use, it auto turns off, which I guess is a great battery saving feature. And it makes a cute little sound. And then when you turn it back on, it also makes a cute little sound. So I thought I would just let that play. Then it pairs. It sounds so cute. I just really like that. I adore it. So I found Matt to be highly credible. There was this one supposed bombshell moment where Yannetti he had these printouts of texts. So there was a text group thread that had 4 people, 2 couples, Jen and Matt McCabe, plus Nicole and Brian Albert, the married couple whose house John was found at. And Jen is Nicole's sister. So it's like, and they're close. So they're like brother, sister-in-law, they're a close-knit group. And they were texting about everything. So apparently I remember that, who was it who said it? What was the friend's name? There were 2 friends of Brian Albert Jr. who were at the house that night because it was his birthday. Sarah Levinson and what was the other one? I don't remember, but so I think Sarah Levinson was the one who said she saw a black blob outside on the lawn, or a black object, and she claimed, she said, "What's that?" And the other girl was like, "What's what?" And she was like, "Nothing, I'm drunk." And then in the morning she put two and two together, but she still never told anybody. Apparently, up until the moment she was saying it on the stand, or maybe some other point, like a month or so before that, during an interview or something, that she actually saw a black blob or a black object. And so people are saying, like, she's lying. She made that up after the fact. And I'm, just to clarify, I'm not clear if it was Sarah Levinson who said that, or the other friend whose name is escaping me at the very moment. Okay, I'm glad I just looked it up, because I was wrong. It was actually the other friend, Juliana Nagel, who said she saw a black blob on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road. I'm reading over there on my laptop. As she was driven past the home early on January 29th, 2022, she and another friend, Sarah Levinson, were getting a ride home that morning from Albert's aunt and uncle, Jen and Matt McCabe. So Matt testified that he didn't hear anything about the black blob comment. Jen, I don't remember if she said she didn't hear it, or if she just wasn't asked, she didn't mention it. And so to me, Matt seemed very credible. He testified to waking up to screaming. He thought somebody was in his room. One of the kids burst in screaming, and then he realized it was Jen on the phone, and he could hear, "Jen, Jen, Jen," and realized it was Karen. And Karen kept saying, "Jen, Jen, Jen," over and over, and saying she had a fight with, so that was what Jen was testifying to. Matt testified that he woke up somebody screaming, "Jen, Jen, Jen." Then she says it's Karen, and then she's like, and okay, so Emily had some complaints about Matt. One was that he kept using the word "we," and Emily said that if she had been on the case, she would have been like, "Objections, hearsay. Who is we? You can't testify to we. You have to say I." Okay, so she said she felt like the testimony was like a little muddy because of that, and that nobody was objecting. And then, so then he says Jen gets up, she goes down to make some coffee, and then a few minutes later he hears screaming outside. He looks down, he sees Karen pulled into the driveway. He's in the bedroom upstairs looking down, is what I understood it to mean. And he said his viewpoint was like the closest to where the driveway was from where he was in the room. It was snowing, it was dark, and he says that he saw that her taillight was out, meaning the light was out, and she was screaming. And he said she was screaming so loud that he said to Jen, "Tell her to shut the fuck up," or something, because she's going to wake up the whole neighborhood. So Jen goes downstairs. Well, no, Jen was already downstairs at that point. So she'd gone downstairs to make coffee. She says, so then she's saying, Matt says that Jen is going to go with Karen to look for John, and he's relieved. Good, I don't have to go out, because he's assuming at that point John is just on somebody's couch. So he said he didn't think it was a bright idea to go out in the car with a busted taillight. Who just texted me? Oh, it was my brother, because I had, in my group chat with my family, I was like, "Have you seen Ashley Madison? It just came out 3 days ago on Netflix." I watched it. That's kind of wild. And Bridgerton 3 also came out. I think I might watch that after this. Anyway, also my kids will be home in about 40 minutes. So then there was a part where, so I missed a lot of his testimony, so I can't say that I understand it all. I did feel for the most part he was credible, but then that's what I was saying on cross. Yannetti, the defense attorney, was showing him printouts of the group chat. And another thing Emily said, she pointed out, or no, maybe it was Peter. I think it was Peter. And I also, oh yeah, that's right. I stayed up real late and then I watched some Friday Night Frenzy Lawn Lumber with Ian Ruckle of the Bailey, where I like them, but their friendship is like, sometimes I just can't take them. They're just like, they are annoying. Like, they seem to enjoy each other. They interrupt each other a lot. They seem to be annoyed with each other sometimes, but they seem to love it. But sometimes I'm just like, I can't, you guys are annoying me. But they did well last night. Oh, also Rob, he does annoy me because he does way too much like this all the time. He's always going like this, and then he'll like duck out of the freaking screen. I'm like, homeboy needs to like stop that. That's annoying. Personally, it annoys me. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. It's his channel. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Oh, so somebody was like, I think it was Peter Trago, was saying that, oh, no, that's right, it was Rob. Rob said, when he shows up to court, he has 4 copies of the binder, 1 for him, 1 for the other side, 1 for the jury, 1 for the judge. And so he was saying it's remarkable that they have only 1 printout of these text messages. And the guy was like, Matt McCabe needed a phone with a flashlight so he could read it, which I do understand that. I literally have this thing. Now I can't find it. I don't know what I do with it. Oh, it's here. Yet another not sponsored, and it has some schmutz on it. That's gross. I need to clean it. Okay. Magna Pros, and this is a it is a lit up magnifying glass. So I can see shit. Cause I get it, okay? They should have this at the, and it's rechargeable, which is, at this point I avoid anything that needs batteries. I always buy stuff that's USB rechargeable, because why the fuck would you want to keep buying batteries? But anyways, so I didn't feel that was phony or weird or anything. I was like, I totally understand that. Okay, but so the point of the texts is that Yannetti, of course, was trying to prove, like, you guys are trying to get your story straight. And so there was this one text where he says, and this was something like, Emily, so I really do love Emily too, but sometimes sometimes I don't agree with her when she goes off on a little tangent, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know. That's okay. I do love getting different opinions, but and apparently it's a big deal, and we'll see what the jury thinks, though. So he had said in the text, Matt McCabe had said in the text, which was to his wife and Brian and Nicole Albert, tell him the guy never went in the house. And Brian Albert's response is exactly. So Yannetti was painting it as if he was like making it up. Tell him the guy never went in the house. Exactly. That's what we'll do. That's the implication. Where you, in my opinion, you can just as easily take it as, tell him the guy never went in the house. And another thing, that's what Emily was getting so busted up over, that he called him the guy, which again, I can see how cruel that seems. You know, it's like, now you know that the guy is dead and you're calling him the guy. But I also kind of took it like, well, what if you said it in, like, the guy had a heavy Boston accent? And if you take it maliciously, I could see it, you know, like, oh, he's so callous and he doesn't even care about this guy. He's calling him the guy. But I also could totally see it as he's saying, like, tell him the guy never went in the house. Tell him the guy never went in the house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not saying it necessarily. That's why I'm looking at it from both sides, because to me, it was not a clear, like, oh my God, you're lying. He's covering it up. You're cruel. But it could have just been like, what if his way of thinking of it was like, the guy never even went into the house. Like, how could, like, why are we suspicious? The guy never even went in the house. Tell him the guy never even went in the house. I could see it like that. And then his brother-in-law is like, exactly. But then you have the people who believe that Karen is innocent, or who think Brian and Matt did something that, and you know, the defense is trying to paint it like, look, you were trying to get your story straight, and why are you asking if the cops are there, and why are, you know, but at the same time, it's like, people do get curious. Somebody died on your lawn, a friend. Isn't that shocking? Wouldn't you want to know what's happening? So I understand, like, you know, during trials and stuff, they're like, did you talk to so-and-so? Did you get your stories together? Did you line your stories up? And it's like, of course not. So I feel like it could go either way for me on Matt McCabe. I really felt like he seemed like a really sincere guy. And then there was at one point where he kind of started chuckling. And Yannetti, of course, pounced on the opportunity to point it out. Like, this is a joke to you. What do you think? This is funny? You know, and he's like, well, you keep asking me the same question. And then Yannetti said, which what I thought was a bombshell, like, yeah, I keep asking you the same question because you won't give me the answer I want. Which to me, it's like, well, if you're a lawyer, aren't you supposed to be trying to get the answer that's the answer, instead of trying to fucking squeeze the juice out of a rock to get him to say what you want him to say to incriminate himself? You know? So I don't know. I don't know which way the jury will take it. And at this point, I feel like a hung jury is the best bet, but we'll see, because then Jen McCabe got on the stand, and that was the most damaging evidence against Karen Reed. And there was a ton of people in the comments like, she's evil. What kind of friend is she? She's got no sympathy, no empathy for Karen. Oh my God, she's a liar, this and that. And I'm like, again, coming into this as somebody who's only listening to what the jury's listening to. Yes, I did do that video, like I said, my first thoughts before the case started, and I read a couple articles, and I kind of got like a quick sense of like a little bit, but I didn't do any deep dives or anything. And at this point, I'm not doing outside media coverage. I'm only watching, all of the people who I'm watching are lawyers who are watching the actual trial, covering it, and like listening to the actual testimony and the evidence that's being presented in court. And I understand that there's a lot of stuff that people say it's out there and it might not be considered actual evidence, so it doesn't get to come in. If your position is that the cops are corrupt, Judge Beverly Cannoni is corrupt, the DA is corrupt, or the Commonwealth is corrupt, then it sort of seems like it's not going to matter to you whatever's said, whatever evidence might be brought forth for or against. If you've already made up your mind, then that means that, well, first of all, if you already made up your mind that they're corrupt, then of course it's kind of like, why bother? Because you assume that they're going to prove that she's guilty with their corrupt evidence. But I do have some amount of faith and curiosity about the process, and hope that there'll be some level of justice. Okay, so Jen McCabe got on the stand. I found her to be very credible, and cross-examination, I believe, will start Tuesday when court resumes, and then we'll see. We'll see if Yannetti pulls her apart, proves lies, impeaches her testimony, things like that. Or will it be more of like, is it supposed to be a gotcha moment? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like that text message, tell him the guy never went into the house exactly. Is that a gotcha moment, or is that just evidence of the guy saying the guy never went into the house exactly? Like, you know what I'm saying? That could just as well be proof and evidence that the guy never went into the house, because they're saying it and confirming it with each other. So you could take it as like, no, they're lying and they are coordinating their lies, they're matching up their stories, or they're just talking about what actually happened. And you know, like when they were trying to make it seem like there was this whole big deal, oh, and maybe it will come out, or did it already happen? Like Caitlin Albert, I already lost track. Did she already testify? Wait. Yeah, that's right, she did. And I don't know. It's like, okay, so Jen testified that Karen called her hysterical, screaming her name over and over and over, saying me and John had a fight and he didn't come home and I don't know where he is. And I left him at the waterfall and I don't know where he is. And then Matt says, well, this is something that he had testified to, that he saw the SUV, he saw Karen's SUV at the house that night. And he said, oh, they're here. And then I don't have exactly who said exactly what, but one of them said they saw the SUV there and then looked out again and it had moved. Oh, right, that's right. And then Jen was texting John. So apparently Jen was friends with John more than with Karen. So she was texting John saying, hello, like something like that. Then texted him again, like, are you okay? Or something like that. Then the SUV was gone. Okay, so they just assumed, like she said, oh, I assumed that they were arguing or something had happened with one of the kids, and so they decided to leave. That's what she said. So then she says that she told Karen, you know, what do you mean you left him at the waterfall? We saw you at 34 Fairview. We saw you there. And then Karen says, I don't remember going there. And then, so she goes downstairs to make coffee, and she says a few minutes later she hears screaming outside her front door. She goes to open the front door, and she sees Karen running towards the front door, and she's hysterical. And so she decides that she's going to drive with Karen, but she's going to drive Karen's car, SUV, Lexus, because she said Karen was so hysterical that she didn't think it was safe for her to drive. And then Matt was like, is that safe for you to go out like that? But then he lets them go anyway, saying, good. What the fuck? Why would he just let her go out in a blizzard? I don't know, but he did, with relief. So then somehow Carrie Roberts is suddenly there in her car saying, what the hell are you doing, Karen? Something like that. And then so then Carrie is telling her to shut up and says something like, he probably just passed out at the house drunk and you didn't see him. Right. And then at some point, a little bit before that, at some point, Jen McCabe said that Karen said, I broke my taillight. So she said, we had a fight. I don't remember going to the house. The last time I saw him was a waterfall. I broke my taillight. So Jen McCabe gets into Karen's SUV. Karen gets into the passenger side. Karen is screaming, hysterical. I hit him. Could I have hit him? They're driving to John's house. She parks the car. So at some point there's a discrepancy in her testimony because, or maybe it hasn't come out yet, because like exactly where that fit in. Because she said when we get out of the car, Karen takes her and Carrie over to just point out, look at the taillight. But that was not on the Ring camera, which showed them getting out of the car, running into the house. You can see the blizzarding. And then the three of them get into Carrie's car, realizing that he's not there. And I think she may have said, Karen said, we have to go to 34 Fairview. So the three of them get into Carrie's car. Now Carrie is driving. Jen McCabe is in the passenger front, and Karen is in the back seat, except she's not wearing her seatbelt, and she's scooched all the way up in the middle, where she's like literally right next to them, and she's screaming hysterically over and over and over, repeating, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," and I don't know. Could I? Carrie was like, shut up, sit back, put your seatbelt on. And then she said she would sit back for a moment, she would quiet down, and then it would just start all over again. And then they get there, and as they're pulling up, Karen starts banging on the door. Let me out, I see him. Jen said she was sitting in the passenger seat, so she looked over, she said she didn't see anything but snow, and she jumps out. Oh, Carrie had to unlock the door. She jumps out, runs right to him, lifts her shirt up, and lays down on him, trying to press her skin against his skin. Carrie jumps out of the car, runs over to him, and starts clearing snow off of his face. So sad. What a tragedy, knowing he was already dead. And he was a beloved and needed man. And it's really sad. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the absolute sad and tragic nature of the fact that he lost his life. And those children that he was raising lost their second dad / uncle. So Jen said it was like totally surreal. She couldn't believe that this was happening. And so a lot of people seem to think she wasn't credible. People were saying she's not a good friend, what an awful friend. And I was thinking, especially considering that I've just come to the realization that a 20-year friendship of mine actually came to its expiry date. And a line that I heard in the Ashley Madison show really resonated with me, which was someone said, I don't want to reconcile. At this point, I don't want to reconcile. I don't want to work through it. I don't want to hear you out. I'm adding my own now. I don't want to hear you out. I don't want to explain myself to you. I don't want to go through all the stuff that I feel like I would want to and need to go through in order to get to a place with you where I could build trust again. But why do I want to build trust again? Anyway, you live 2,000 miles away. I never will see you. When you fucking came in town, I didn't want to see you. So at this point, I'm ready to just acknowledge that it's over. Okay? And I don't want to fix it. I don't want to reconcile. I don't want to make it better. I don't want to figure out a way to get along with you again. And maybe that's what Jen McCabe felt on a much more serious level. You know, like it's totally valid to just be done with somebody, interacting with them and trying to maintain a friendship when they've just crossed too many lines, crossed too many boundaries, and just shown you that, you know what, actually I don't feel that friendly feeling toward you. That in itself is enough. Somebody doesn't have to maybe murder a guy for you to want to cut off a friendship. And I just find it absolutely bizarre that people would judge a woman for no longer wanting to be friends with someone who she obviously seems to believe, or at least suspect, that from Karen's own mouth, Karen hit him. Karen is the one who killed John. I think Jen thinks that. So if Jen believes, whether it's true or not is not the point I'm making right now. The point I'm making is to judge Jen for being a bad friend when she obviously thinks that Karen is a bad friend. Karen is a literal murderer. You know, and if you think somebody's a murderer, And then not only did that bitch murder that man, but now she's turning around and literally blaming every single person who was anywhere near that guy. It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. It's like, all y'all motherfuckers did it. The EMTs did it. The people who were hosting and were inviting us over did it. Their fucking friends did it. Their son did it. The friend, it's like, what? I don't know. I mean, maybe those people are shady or sus, or maybe they're just fucking tired of this shit. Maybe they're sick of people accusing them of murdering their own friend when the guy didn't even go in the house. Exactly. Ugh, let me sit up. So, not to say I'm on the Karen did it bandwagon, or that Karen was like malicious or intent, or even that it really even happened. I still don't know, although I still find it absolutely unlikely that all those people, like, yeah, Colin Albert made a really stupid, cringe ass I'm gonna fuck you up video when he was 17 years old, but like, I'm sure a lot of 17-year-old kids do that. Like, that does just not like, show me why. Show me that Colin Albert knew that John was hurting somebody he cared about, or that John was a threat, or like, what possible purpose? So far the possible motives and purpose. Oh, wait, I almost straight up forgot that Jen also testified that while they were driving to 34 Fairview, Karen was hysterical, and she said, do you think John could be at Bella's house? And Bella was like a kid who was the age of, I guess, the niece that he was raising, and maybe the same age as Jen McCabe's daughter, and that years before John had dated Bella's mom, and Karen knew that. So it was like, she meant like in a jealous way, like, is he back with Bella? And Jen was like, no. And then she mentioned some other lady. Here I think I say it was Karen who mentioned the second lady, but when I rewatched Jen, she actually said it was Carrie who mentioned this lady named Ashley. And it was like, no, that was ridiculous too. That was way in the past. And I think that's when Jen said that Karen was spiraling down. Allison or something, Ashley or some name, that he also had dated that woman. But from Jen's perspective, from what she said, there was no chance that he was there, because it was an old relationship, and she felt like it was just Karen being unhinged with jealousy. Oh, see, it turns off. Are my kids here 10 minutes early? Although, if a guy is, I don't know if she found him kissing someone, or knew he kissed someone, or he did actually cheat on her. So, you're not unhinged with jealousy if the person's actually cheating on you. You might be unhinged with who you think he's cheating on you with, but not unhinged because he was cheating on you. So I don't really know. And I don't want to say that she was unhinged, because I don't know what he was doing, and I don't know what she really knew. And again, I don't know if she actually killed him. But I'm just saying, that's what Jen was saying, that Jen and Carrie, and then she said that, I feel like they are here. Let me go check. Let's see if that's my kids. Indeedly is. Can you ring the bell?
The doors were open.
Door open.
Did you close it behind you? Or is there a front door open? Oh, I have that on. Just FYI.
Hi, my nose is very runny.
Honey, why?
I don't know, I have a cold, I think.
Oh no, honey, you need to drink some tea and have some explanation.
Speaking of tea, Gigi gave us this. It's chai tea, because she had too much tea, so she gave it to me.
It's not chai tea, it's just
Chai
chai.
tea. Whatever.
Sorry,
It's chai.
no, it's got like some short. Yes. we didn't turn it on and they had it on, so I want to turn the light on. They had it on. How are you? I'm done. Good. You?
See, that was our light, babe.
Oh.
But wait, honey, they closed their doors. That means that the door's just open. What weirdos. Kids came in and the neighbors had the door open and they just closed their door but didn't close the front door. What the F? Who does that? That's bizarre. Now my kids are home. Okay, we'll see if I'll be back for some more updates in a minute. Oh, now it's 8:39. The kids are going downstairs to wash their overnight clothes. I want to get into the habit of them washing them right away. Let me close the curtain. Since it's nighttime and it's dark out, usually see me opening it in the morning. You probably can't even see nothing because the chair is blocking. So, let's see. I have some thoughts. Now I have to go back. There. Now I've got to get my butt. Wait. I gotta get back in this chair. I gotta get my butt in. So, where was I? All right. Whoop. Oh, drop this. This fell down. Let's put that back away. Yeah, I got up because, so my son has a runny nose. That really sucks. And I might put this on. But in again. Now it's all dark and it is 8:50. So where was I? All right, let's get back into it. So I had left off talking about maybe he was cheating, maybe she'd caught him cheating, maybe she knew for sure he was cheating, so maybe she wasn't being unhinged by suspecting, maybe was unhinged by who she thought he might be cheating with. Maybe she was just thinking about anyone she could think of that might be the one, someone, I don't know. So also Carrie Roberts had said to Jen when, according to Jen on the stand, when Karen jumped out of the car and ran over to John, she said, she's batshit crazy. So Tuesday will be day 15. Jen McCabe, I don't remember if Prosecutor Lawley finished his cross of her or no, actually that's right. Not his cross, his direct examination. It was, I think Alan Jackson is going to do the cross examination, and I remember he said something like, well, I don't think I can get it done in 4 minutes, so. And then there's no court on Monday, and then Tuesday they're back, and that will be a half day unless they decide somehow that it's going to be a full day before then, but I can't imagine that, because they didn't say that. She said we can look into not doing the half days, but I don't mind it. I mean, at this point, like I said, I watch it in between doing work and a million other things, so as much as it's cool to be able to watch live when I'm able to catch it live and comment or question the lawyer who's streaming it live, if I don't, and it's all good. So we'll get a bit of a break, and yeah, so those are my thoughts today. I mean, Friday really was the first day of testimony that made me think, oh shit, did she actually do it? So I feel like there's still a long way to go. And a couple of people have asked this question, which I thought was kind of silly, but a couple of people asked, on the streams I was watching, well, what if the prosecution just uses up all the time and then the defense doesn't have any time? And I'm like, how would that be a just system in any world where there's a certain amount of time and one side could use it all up? Like, that would be the most unjust system ever. But yet people pose the question, and the answer is that would be a totally unjust system, and it's just not part of the system. There's no way possible that one side could just take up all the time. Now in the civil, whoopsie, it just says, well, why do I need to just sit here looking cute, wasting energy? Okay, I could plug it in so I won't lose all my power. But, like in the Johnny Depp civil trial against Amber Heard, which he won. She embarrassed herself across the world like he said she would. She's a psychopath. There was a certain amount of time allotted, but still, that didn't mean that it was going to take away from the other side, because that's just not a just system. So if Lolly is just lollygagging, and a lot of the lawyers seem to think, which I agree with, possibly, that they're not actually putting on their own case. They're doing more of a, we're going to prove that the defense's case is not the truth, and it's making it hard to follow. And even in their opening statement, there was no clear plot line of their story. Like, what did they believe is, what's the story? What do you think happened? I mean, I understand that the Commonwealth thinks that Karen killed him, but how? Why? Like, what? They never made a clear picture of what they were going to try to prove. And then the defense was like, well, everybody else and their uncle did it, which doesn't ring true to me. But it's very clear that, red Solo cups and, Stop and Shop grocery bags to collect evidence is just absolutely not the way to do it. And it seems super shoddy. Nobody took thorough reports. People claim things were said that nobody reported. So yeah, if you're gonna do a fucking awful job, then people are gonna be able to poke holes in it, and then that will cause reasonable doubt. And so maybe she did actually do it. Like, up to right this point, if you were to say, what's your verdict right now based on what you know today, I would say, well, obviously I need all the information. But up to this point, it seems like, did she kill him in a fit of, I don't know. Again, they haven't established a foundation for me to know for sure that she was drunk. And maybe that's what one of the lawyers said, maybe that's the whole point, that they're trying to establish she wasn't drunk. She was pissed. She was in a jealous rage. But then it's can you snap from having a really nice time and everybody thinks that you're cool and happy, and then you're in such a jealous rage that you kill a man with your car? I mean, my aunt used to say that her now ex-husband, who they were married for 35 years, my ex-uncle, that they would be at a party and he would be the life of the party and everybody thought he was the coolest, funniest dude. And then the moment that they would get into the car, he would be like, why did you laugh at what that guy said? And blah, 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 and all these things. And that it was a nightmare behind the scenes. And we know that that's the case sometimes. I haven't done anything about Allison Holker for a long while, and kind of sidebar, change the subject. oh, Twitch gave and gave and gave. He was so generous. He poured love out. He poured it out. He gave it to everybody, but he couldn't receive it. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, this was such an important interview, and every minute of it and every word. And maybe it's all true. You know, maybe my off feelings are off. But I also was thinking, like, isn't it, it's real one-sided when, oh, it's dark. Let me close my curtain so I'm not blasting myself into the neighborhood. But it's real one-sided when one person gets to speak on a thing and the other person is dead and they don't get to say, you know. So it's like, okay, well, you're saying that he wasn't able to accept love and that, you know, and he was just depleted. And it sounds, you know, great. It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't sound great. I'm just saying, it's like, it makes it seem like she poured love into him, but he just couldn't receive it, you know. He was just deflecting all the love that came in to him, which could very well be true. But because she already gave me sus weird vibes, I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of like, I guess blame the victim vibes is kind of what I got. Like, this man was so miserable, and for whatever reason, and again, you know, it's like, it's not fair to blame someone else. Again, like, maybe she's the victim and I'm blaming the victim, which is her. But I just kind of felt like, that's why I'm saying it's just like one of those things. It's just so like, ugh, you just can't really even talk about it. Like, I thought about Kate Middleton today because, you know, this was my inspired by Kate Middleton purchase, which is actually one of my favorites because it's super soft and comfy. Even though I almost always avoid stripes, but I might as well put it on right now. And it made me think, you know, just like I had predicted, nobody's going to hear nothing from her for a long ass time. We got Prince Chuck over here with his portrait that looks a lot like, wait, the other side of this curtain. A lot like, no, this is a peacock. Just this, it looks like a lot like this. You know, like, what the F mofo. Okay, that's your legacy. Burning in hell. Alrighty then. He's been out and about, but not a fucking pip of her. Not a shot, not a spot, not a nothing, not a nada. And hopefully she's okay, even though I still think she's a mean girl who's probably a motherfucking racist bitch. So, you know, I'm sure we would never be friends. But anyway, I guess the end of this video is back to some hodgepodge thoughts. And back to just wrap it up about Karen. I mean, I have fluctuated, like, sorry, I don't remember your name at the moment. Somebody commented a lovely comment and mentioned, like, going back and forth with this, because it's like, first I'm like, you're not likable, and the interview you gave me real cringe vibes. And some of her laughing and smirking and things in court also gives me cringe vibes. But again, if she's actually innocent and she feels like these are corrupt people who are trying to frame her, then that would give some not validity, but like some justification to her attitude, maybe. So it's kind of like, I really don't know. I do think that the prosecution is not the best at the job as far as like laying the groundwork for a story. Give me the fucking plot line, give me an outline, give me a fucking clue, like, where is this going? How did you get to second-degree manslaughter? Why is this not a, you know, vehicle manslaughter type of thing? But it, you know, my mom and I were talking about, you know, what are you watching lately? What's the show? And I was saying I might watch Bridgerton. I mean, I will. I don't know if, you know, maybe I'll just save it for tomorrow. I don't know if I want to waste my whole Sunday doing that, but like, I'm already planning I'm going to binge watch the whole thing. Wait, I wonder how many episodes it is. Well, sometimes what I like to do is not binge watch it and like watch a few episodes and then save the rest. So maybe I'll watch a couple episodes tonight and then watch some tomorrow. Let's see how many episodes it is. Season Trace. It's only 4 episodes? Oh, they're hour 58 minutes, 52 minutes, 54 minutes, 50 minutes. So probably at least 5-6 minutes of credits. So it's about 40 minutes each. So it's like a little bit, it's like 3 some hours. All right. So anyways, I don't know. It's 9 o'clock. So I don't know exactly when I'll put this out, since there's no trial until actually Monday. There's no particular rush for me to get this out there. So those are my thoughts. I'm wrapping it up. And thank you if you made it to the end of the video. And again, just another reminder, thank you for watching. It would be really helpful if you would click subscribe. Again, I am trying to push to the final. I have less than 100 subscribers to get to that magic number of 1,000, which would then allow me to monetize so I could get that 45 cents a month or something. And that would, maybe not help out right now, but I would love to be able to start to grow that. And, it was really disappointing. I had finally gotten monetized on my cat dancing and stretching channel after years of working for it, and almost immediately got demonetized because they decided that my channel was sexually gratifying. Isn't that ironic? When I'm like celibate and just dancing around my living room in sweats. But thank you? Not thank you. Sorry, not sorry? I don't know. Anyway, so I'll see you in the next one, guys. And as always, I really appreciate your comments and questions that are interesting, engaging, and helpful, or just nice and funny. All right, my lovely peaches. I'm hoping that this will save. I just recorded 10 more minutes of Jen McCabe's testimony on 1.75 speed. Some of this was already in the chunk of what I played earlier, but I wanted to just play through a continuous portion of what she testified to. And I want to give credit to Surviving the Survivor. They've been streaming the trial. They're not doing commentary or anything. They're just streaming it. I don't know exactly where they're streaming it from. Maybe they just logged in, because you can like call into the number and actually just stream. So that's probably what they've done. Call in to the Zoom number where you can stream. So just giving them a shout out. Go ahead and give them a follow and a like. And if you want to listen to the rest of the testimony, then you can listen to it either with Alita Legal Bites. She's streaming it. Emily D. Baker streaming it. Peter Tragos is doing highlights, updates, lowlights, stuff like that. And Jay, The Shaming of Jay is streaming it with Bob, and they take turns on Defense Diaries podcast or The Shaming of Jay's channel. And then there's Law and Crime is also streaming it with no commentary. So those are options if you're interested in watching it yourself. And of course, you can subscribe to mine and catch my updates. Okay, and enjoy the last 10 minutes of the video here, which is Jen McCabe testifying at 1.75, and she's on her direct examination with Prosecutor Lolly. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.
Does he have a drug problem? Does arrested? Did you arrest? Huh?
If you could, fast forward just about a minute. Right. Right. Negative pause. Okay, do you recognize any of the individuals up on that screen?
Yes.
And if you could, with the laser pointer direct the jury's attention, who do you recognize and who do you recognize then?
Carrie Roberts, myself, Karen Reed.
Okay. Tell me you can take that. Excuse me. Now, Ms. McCabe, if I could just take you back to when you arrived there. You indicated Ms. Reed goes over to Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. Roberts, what is it that you were doing at that time?
I got out of the car and I came around, and for a second or two, I completely just froze. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
His body at that time?
Yes,
And if you know about how much?
there was enough that his body was covered in snow.
And could you tell at that point how far Mr. O'Keefe was from the roadway as far as Fairview Road was concerned?
I mean, I remember kind of a little ways in. I don't know exactly.
And so you make that call to 911, and what is sort of going on with respect to Ms. Roberts, the defendant, and Mr. O'Keefe while you're on that 911?
So I run the blankets over to Miss Roberts, and she's kind of lifts him up, put the blankets underneath him, and she's screaming at Miss Reed to get off of Mr. O'Keefe. And they're kind of yelling back and forth. Karen screaming, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" I, at some points, walk over towards the car, Carrie's car, to get away because they're so loud. And I was trying to be calm and get help there for John as fast as possible. Carrie starts yelling about doing CPR. She tells Karen to do mouth to mouth. Karen's yelling because as they start, blood starts coming out of John's mouth.
As far as the CPR that you're talking about?
Yes.
So during this time, the defendant's yelling, and you're on the phone with 911, correct?
Yes.
So you're trying to back up or distance yourself a little bit so that you can hear what's going on with the 911 operator, and they can hear you.
Yes.
And after you complete that 911 call, what's going on with that?
I go over, and at that point, Carrie asks if I can take over doing the compressions.
And did you do that?
I did, yes.
And at some point after you call 911, do either police or fire or someone responds and arrives on scene, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know about how much time it was in between when you hung up with 911 and when the first responders started to arrive?
From when I hung up, maybe a few minutes. I'm not exactly sure.
And do you recall whether or not it was police or fire or who showed up first?
Police.
And is that the officer that was in that video or that cruiser that was just up on the screen as the last visit?
I didn't see the officer, in the video, but I know it was Officer Sarif was the first officer to arrive.
And so then,
I didn't see the officer, in the video, but I know it was Officer Sarif was the first officer to arrive.
and so then, after the officer arrives, what happened then?
He was trying to figure out what had happened. Karen just ran around screaming my name, Carrie's name. Is he dead? Is he dead? It was on repeat. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? More officers started to arrive. The EMTs, they began to work on him.
And by him, you mean Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Keefe's still on the ground, and they're working on him there, is that correct?
Yes.
And could you see anything about sort of what they were doing or what was going on with that?
No, I just saw a bunch of them around Mr. O'Keefe.
And then what happened then?
More officers began to arrive. Miss Reed just continued to run around screaming. As more officers and EMT arrived, they asked what happened. One EMT asked, one EMT had asked, his name, his age, things like that, if she knew what happened. Miss Reed stated that she hit him. Besides running around saying, I hit him, did I hit him, could I have done this, is he dead, is he dead? At one point, one of the police officers put Miss Reed in the back of her cruiser, and he asked for myself to go over with her, and Carrie came over with us as well.
If I could just take you back to when the paramedic is asking for information, biographical information, things like that. You indicated that the defendant said, I hit him, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that something that she said once or more than once?
3 times. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Now, before you had made reference to the statement she made with sort of qualifiers or questions as far as could I have hit him or did I hit him? Is that what she said at that time when she was speaking to the paramedic?
No, she was earlier. It was could I, did I. When she spoke to the paramedic, it was crystal clear. I hit him.
Now, one of the officers takes her over to the back of a cruiser, is that right?
Yes.
And you were over in that area as well?
Yes.
Who, if anyone else, was over in that area?
Miss Roberts.
And while you were over in that area, what was going on?
We were in the back of the police cruiser. Karen was sitting in there. I kind of scooched myself in. Miss Roberts came over. Karen grabbed our hands. She asked us to pray. She looked at her hands and she had blood. She asked us if she could have gotten her period. We told her no, that was John's blood. Then she said, what if he's dead? Promise me you'll take care of the kids. Someone's going to take care of the kids. Then we prayed. Then at the end, they were moving John. And at that point, Karen told Kerry, go over, look, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Over and over. And Kerry said, I'll go over and check on him. And she was yelling, are they working on him? And then at that point, she grabbed my hands and she said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold. And so I had my phone out and it was cold and my hands were frozen and I have MS and I took my phone out while she was screaming and shaking my arm and I attempted to Google how long does it take to die in the cold.
And when you conducted that search, that was at the defendant's request on scene sometime after 6 a.m. on that day, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall whether or not that came up as far as your search in Google? Is it something that you typed once or more than once? If you know?
I believe I did it multiple times because as I was typing it, I don't know what else was coming up. She was screaming. My hands were shaking.
And do you recall anything as far as what the search results were, or did you click on anything, or did you get an answer to the question the defendant posed to you?
I don't even think I got an answer because as I kept Googling and she kept yelling and then they were moving John and the next thing I knew we were kind of moving because she wanted to see if they were working on him.
And so you were moving along with the defendant over towards where Mr. O'Keefe was gone to the back of the ambulance?
Yes, we kind of just moved to see what was going on.
When you moved over, what did you see then?
They were just putting him in the back of the ambulance.
Now, after Mr. O'Keefe was put into the back of the ambulance, where did you go then? What did you do?
At that point, different police officers, I believe, were arriving and they were asking questions about what happened.
And did you speak to those officers?
I did, yes.
And at that point, did you know what happened?
No, to be honest, it was like I was there, but everything was just going on and I was completely just in a state of shock and disbelief.
And that sort of period there, how long did that go on?
So I talked to a few officers. We tried to just give them, she didn't come home. We went out looking for him, kind of just the brief overview. And then one of the police officers asked me to go into the house and to wake up my sister and my brother-in-law.
And at some point while you were outside, did you try to contact your sister and your brother-in-law?
I believe I called my sister, Nicole.
And when was that in relation to everything as far as medically that was going on with Mr. O'Keefe and all of that?
I think I might have called her right after I got off with 911 possibly. And then, she didn't answer. And that's when I was walking over, I believe, to John.
And she didn't answer the call when you called her initially?
No.
And do you recall calling either your sister Nicole or your brother-in-law Brian Albert prior to going into the house?
I don't recall. I know I did call Nicole at one point. I'm not sure if I called Brian or not.
Regardless of if you called or you didn't call, do you recall having any sort of phone conversation with either Nicole or Brian Albert before you went in the house?
No.
So you at least called your sister Nicole, she didn't answer, and then one of the officers directed you to wake them up.
Yes.
And when you went up to the house at 34 Fairview, how did you get in?
The front door.
And the front door was unlocked?
Yes.
Is that typical from your experience at that residence?
Yes.
And so you went to the house, and where did you go?
I went up the stairs to their bedroom.
And the bedroom door, when you arrived there, was it open or closed or something?
Closed.
And you opened it?
Yes.
And when you opened it, who, if anyone, did you see in the room, and what were they doing?
I saw my sister and Brian and they were both asleep.
And you familiar with a dog that they have?
Yes.
What was the dog's name?
Chloe?
Was Chloe in the bedroom as well at that time?
I don't recall.
You come in, they're both sleeping, and what happened then?
I go over to the bed and I'm calling out their names.
And how long were you calling out the names before you got any kind of response?
Brian responded first and he was very, startled and looked at me like, what is going on? Nicole took a little, I think it took Nicole a little bit longer than Brian to wake up.
And what is it that you're telling them as you're coming into the room and they're waking up?
I'm telling them that we just found John out front. And I could have possibly said, John has died. We just found John out front. They were very confused. At one point, I think Brian was like, who's John? I mean, they just woken up and they had no idea what I was talking about.
Now, as far as when they're first waking up and you're explaining to them, how would you describe sort of their demeanor as you're talking?
They were both shocked. I think they thought, like, why? Okay.
So what I'm asking them is just sort of when you observe them, how would you describe your physical observations of what they look like, their demeanor in that respect?
Shocked, confused, not understanding.
Strike the last one.
Now, as far as this conversation that you're having with your sister and your brother-in-law in their bedroom, how long was that going on for?
A few minutes, at least.
And then following that, where did you go?
They got up, got dressed, and then we walked down the stairs.
And when you got to the bottom of the stairs, what, if anything, did you see when you got?
There was a police officer at the bottom of the stairs.
And do you know who that police officer is?
Yes, Officer Lank.
At that time, did you know who that police officer was?
I did, yes.
How did you know?
He's from Canton. He was, I don't know, 5 years older than me. I knew him kind of growing up, who he was, and met him through the years.
You're aware of who he was?
Yes.
And were there any other officers with him initially?
No.
Now, before you go into the house, do you know where Ms. Roberts and the defendant were, or what they were doing when you went to the house?
I believe they put Karen in a car, and
Only if you know, only if you
okay.
If you know, do you know?
Karen was in a car. Kerry was walking all around.
Now, as far as the ambulance with Mr. O'Keefe, at the time that you go into the house, was that ambulance still there?
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it had left.
And when you come downstairs with your sister and your brother-in-law, and the officer's there, you have a conversation, is that correct?
Yes.
Where did that first conversation occur?
In the hallway, and then into the kitchen.
And from there, you mentioned that there was Officer Lang at one point. Were there any other officers that joined that conversation at some point?
Hours later, yes.
And so during that initial conversation, you're talking to the officer, who, if anyone else, not what they said, but who, if anyone else, is speaking to the officer.
Brian and Nicole.
Now, the conversation initially with the officer, do you know about how long that went on?
I don't. A few minutes.
And following that conversation, what did you do, or what happened?
My husband arrived.
And had you called him?
Yes.
And when had you called him?
I called him when I was walking in the house to wake up my sister and Brian.
So as you're walking in, you call your husband Matt, and then he arrived at some point after. Is it after you're done talking to the officer, or while you're talking to the officer?
The officer was still in the house, yes.
And so in that vein, as far as when your husband comes in, the officer's there, correct?
Yes.
Did you see your husband talking to the officer as well?
Yes, the officer asked him to step outside or step to the side, and they spoke.
And then what happened then?
The officer told me to stay.
Hold on, I told you to say.
The officer told me to stay.
See you later. Bye.